Hi there, and welcome back to another episode number 15 of Silk Over Still TV. Hi there, Angelica Duncan here with Silk Over Still TV, and I'm so excited to have you back for another great episode. As you know, we are doing a Bible study on prayer, and we are studying how to pray effectively so that we can get results in our prayer lives, results in other people's lives, and really be able to defeat the enemy whenever we come up against anything whatsoever, whether it's for us or for friends or family or complete total strangers. We are actually using a workbook right here. It is called Discipleship Essentials Prayer. You can find it on Amazon. Just type it in the search bar. And we are in lesson number 6. And we are dealing with deliverance from evil, divine protection, and help. So we're going to read Matthew chapter 6, verse 13. It says, "And lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from evil." So, of course, we always start off with our biblical terminology. So if you will just give us a moment, we will pop in and I'll give you the words. They're actually going to be 4 words that you're going to look up in the Greek in the Strong's Concordance, which is, of course, online. You don't have to actually purchase one, but you're going to look it up, and we'll be right back. Hey there, I am back for our biblical terminology. Like I said before, we have 4 words that we are looking up. So we're going to look up lead, temptation, deliver, and evil. And you have the Greek references for those. They're really easy to find if you just go ahead and go to the it's the elia.com lexicon, and you can type in Matthew 6 right in there. And we're in verse 13. So let's scroll down. And we're doing like the first part of verse 13, part A. And so we're doing lead, temptation, deliver, and evil. And so click on those, look them up, get the definitions, study those words, and then we'll actually get into our lesson. Thanks so much. All right, so we are back. So the 4 words we looked up were lead, temptation, deliver, and evil. Lead, pretty simple. It means to bring into. Now, this word temptation trips people up, but it actually has dual meanings. The main meaning means a trial, a proving, or a testing. It also means an enticement to sin or an inward or an outward temptation. Deliver means to rescue, and evil means calamity, hardships, bad conditions. That's a pretty simple one. So let's take a look in this lesson. We are in verse 13, but we're doing 13a. We're actually breaking up verse 13 into parts A and parts B so we can get a full deeper meaning of it. So essentially what this verse is saying is this: keep us away from trials, tests, and temptations, but if I am tested or tempted, grant me the ability to escape and overcome. I'll say that again. Keep us away from trials, tests, and temptations. But if I am tested or tempted, grant me the ability to escape and to overcome. So a lot of times people don't think about asking God to keep us away from trials or tests or temptations. And this has, of course, it has dual meanings. The first meaning is help me not to sin. Like we're asking God, please help me not to sin. which I think is a worthy prayer, is a worthy request. God, help me not to sin. We're sinful beings, and even though we've accepted salvation, we're still going to sin. Like, it's just going to happen. We sin every day. We fall short of the glory of God every single day. If you don't, you just need to hang it up and just go on and be with Jesus, because we sin every day, and that's just a fact of life. However, we can ask God to help us not to sin, and help us to overcome the temptation to sin when we find ourselves in situations where it would be easier to sin than it would be not to sin, whether it's bridling your tongue, whether it's not eating something you shouldn't eat, or going someplace you shouldn't go, or saying something you shouldn't say, or thinking thoughts you shouldn't think. Whatever it is, we can ask God to help us not to sin. The other meaning is, please don't test me. And I know that sounds weird, but we are often tested. Now, God's not ever going to tempt us, and we're going to talk about that in a bit. God doesn't tempt us. He's not going to tempt us with sin, but he will test us. It's just like a teacher. A teacher is going to give a test, but what most students are like, please don't give us a test. It doesn't matter how prepared they are. Not very many students want to take a test. For various reasons. They don't want to test, so they will beg and ask, please don't test us. But as a teacher, I know that the test is good. The test shows me where you are. The test shows you where you are, and the test can help you then pass and go to the next level. So we need tests. God doesn't ever tempt us. And let's look at that right fast. It's in James chapter 1. James chapter 1. Boom. James chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking nothing." That's not the verse I was looking for. That talks about that God isn't going to tempt you. And I wrote it down, and now I can't find it. Watch what we do here. This is where your phone comes in handy. God doesn't tempt. Yeah, boom. 13. So I was in James. I was in the right spot. So it's actually James 13. James chapter 1, verse 13. "Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and is enticed. Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death." So God's not going to tempt us. I mean, think about it like this. If you're a parent, if you're a mom or a dad, are you ever going to tempt your kids with evil? Like, I'm going to tempt you to disobey me. I'm going to tempt you to jump off the couch. I'm going to tempt you to go into the refrigerator and get something to eat when it's not time to do that. No, there aren't. Most parents, I'll say, good godly parents don't do that kind of thing. And neither does God. He's not going to tempt us with evil. That would go completely against his nature. He wants nothing to do with evil. So he's not going to tempt us. Our own desires that are within us, we're tempted by those things. And that's when we say, God, please help me not to sin. And when you find yourself in a situation to where you are tempted, you ask God, help me not to sin and help me escape. And I said before that God does allow trials and tests to come. And those are good. We need the trials. We need the test. It helps us to grow. It helps to groom us. It helps us to prepare for the next level. But we also know that God's not going to give us a test that we can't pass. See, good teachers, and I'd like to think that I was a good teacher when I was in the classroom, prepare their students for a test. And even though the students are begging, please don't test us, we still give the test, because we need a metric to know that you're prepared for the next level. And if you're not, we can help you get ready. You need to know that you're prepared for the next level. And if not, that there's something that you need to go back and get some remediation or some help on. And then the test helps to advance you to the next level, whether it's the next grade level, the next, course in a sequence of courses, whether it's to graduate, whatever. Tests are good. They mean that I need to study, and I've got to prove myself, and I've got to, get down there, and I've got to work out these problems or whatever, write this essay. But tests are good. Trials are good. They prune us. They groom us. They grow us. They and even some ways nurture us. They draw us closer to God. We have to, get kindled back into Him when we're going through tests and trials. And they're good for us. And so while, yes, we're asking God, please don't give me a test. Please don't give me another trial. I just came out of one. I'm done. I don't need any more. He will still allow them to happen. And when they do, we know that He's provided a way out. He knows what He's doing. He knows that He's equipped us to pass this test or to pass this trial. Now, there's some trials that we find ourselves in that we just put ourselves in there because we made some really bad, dumb, stupid, bonehead decisions. And so even in those, we can still say, God, please help us. And He'll provide a way out. He'll provide a way of escape. He will help us to be able to still pass that trial and pass that test and hopefully say, I won't ever put myself in that situation again. Sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. But either way, He's provided a way of escape for us. James 4 verse 7 is the verse that says, resist the devil and he will flee. Let's read that. Since we're in James. James 4 verse 7 says, therefore submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So we have to submit to God, resist the devil, like resist the temptation to sin, and he will flee from us. 1 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 13 actually talks about that way of escape. And it's actually a way for us, not so much escaping as if we're fleeing because we're afraid. It is an exit. It's a way for us to get out of a situation that is unhealthy or bad or tempting or sinful. So we'll start at 1 Corinthians 10 verse 13. No temptation has overtaken you except such as common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with that temptation will also make the way of escape that you may be able to bear it. And again, that same word, temptation, here in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, it's the exact same word temptation that we looked up, which is the Greek word 3986. It's the same one, which means the trial, the proving, the testing. So God is not going to test us beyond which He has provided a way of escape. It says it right here. No temptation, no test has overtaken you except such that which is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tested beyond what you are able. Again, He's not going to test you beyond anything that you're able. But with that test will also make a way of escape that you may be able to bear it. So some things you're supposed to bear, just go through. And you just got to gut it out and go through it. It's called life. It's called just being a human being and being a child of God. There's some things you just got to go through. But He will make a way of escape so that you can bear it. There will be a way out. There will be a way for you to overcome. So when we're looking at this verse, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, we are asking God, please don't let me go through another test. Or God, please help me not to sin. And if I find myself in a test or I find myself in a tempting, sinful situation, then God, please help me to escape evil. Please help me to pass this test. Please help me to overcome the situation. And it's a valid thing for us to pray. And really a holy thing for us to pray. God gets the glory when we come out of trials. We come out of even, very tempting situations where we may be inclined to sin and we don't sin. We come out of trials, we come out of tests and we've passed the test. God gets the glory in those situations. So, it says, count it all good when you find yourself in diverse temptations or diverse testings or diverse trials, because it is that thing which is going to bring glory to God. It's going to prove who God is. It's going to help perfect you in that process. So it's a good thing when you're tested, an excellent thing when you're tested. So let's look at our prayer strategy. All right, we're back. We're looking at our prayer strategy. Our prayer strategy for this week is about divine protection and help, which is essentially what we've talked about. We're asking God to protect us from even sitting in the first place. We're asking God to protect us when we find ourselves in trials and tests and, proving seasons in our lives. And of course, as always, I give you some bullet points and things that I want you to consider. And during your prayer time this week, be intentional about confessing your areas of weakness to God. It's so important to do that. The areas where you may be more inclined to be tempted by evil, tempted by sin, and to fall prey to that. And then ask you to help him submit to him, resist the devil so that he will flee. Also invite God to reveal his glory and purpose to you as you journey through your trials and through your tests and through your challenges in life that you may be experiencing right now. Remember, even in difficulties and weaknesses, God's power is made perfect in our weakness. His glory is revealed in our weakness. And that's such a powerful position to have. And if you can shift your mindset when you're going through trials. And I know it even helps me as I'm talking about it now, thinking about just different things that I'm experiencing or have come out of. That my trials, my tests, even my temptations, that God can get the glory out of my weaknesses if I just simply submit to him and submit to the process in there. So we're going to hop into our reflections and questions. All right, so let's look at our reflections and questions. There are 8, as we have just about every week in the book, but there are 3 that I want to point out just in case you don't have the book, so you can still be doing some reflection. So we're going to look at question number 2. What are some of the misconceptions about the meaning of this passage of Scripture? Have you been guilty of believing this? How has your understanding grown? Number 5. Why do you believe as Christians we often want to avoid trials? How can God ordain trials be useful to our growth and maturity as Christians? And then number 6, do you see temptation as an opportunity to glorify God? What about abstaining from the appearance of evil as a way to show your love for the Lord? So those are some questions that are kind of deep and will require some reflection on your part. And I want you to think about those throughout the week. And even as you're praying, I'd love to hear back from you. Comment below in the video if this lesson was helpful to you as you're praying throughout the week. If you have questions, be sure to pop in. I'd love to be able to answer those for you and to journey with you as you're praying. We have only 2 more lessons to go, and actually 1 major lesson, and the next one is really a big prayer session for yourself. So I will see you next week for our lesson number 7 of our prayer Bible study. Thanks so much for tuning in and have a great week. Bye-bye.